Hello AS, welcome to the Wundt mark scheme that you're going to be going through. So there's only been one ever previous question in the on Wundt, which suggests that potentially it might be something that comes up. So something for you to bear in mind about that, and that's why I've given you some research methods questions just to refresh your memory, and I did pick things that you might struggle with a little bit in the hope that that would help you refresh your memory again. And of course we went through sampling methods, so there was a sampling methods question in there for you. These levels are something that you are going to be introduced with a lot more while you're writing your 12-mark questions. I'm sure you've seen something similar with Andy. The way that markers are encouraged to do it, they read the details here, so knowledge of Wundt's role is clearly accurate, whatever, and then they read the exam paper, they identify which level, so is it level 1, level 2, level 3, which one of these descriptions does it most match with, and then is it is it the lower end of this description or is it the higher end, and then that's where they provide the marks. So you go level 1, 2 marks, or whatever it might be. So here are the three key things we're looking at, and these are the three key things that we look at whenever we look at any extended writing essay. So if there's a 12-mark essay, AO1 would be 6 marks, and you would look at something similar even if there was AO3 as well. So knowledge is generally accurate and mostly well detailed, is evident, is limited and lacks detail. They are the three options. So you want to think, are you pretty accurate almost all of the time and quite well detailed? Then it's the higher mark. If it's evident you know about it but you've not spoken in a great amount of detail, for example, if I imagine that you provided the information in class, would I say, yes, but tell me more? And then that would suggest you know about it, but I want to know more about it. And then finally, it's limited and it lacks detail. You're not giving me any detail, you're giving me vague pieces of information. The answer is clear and coherent, so structuring is really, really important. To get into the top mark in particular, you need a clear and coherent structure. It needs to make sense. You don't want to be waffling between the things. And the specialist terminology is used effectively, appropriately or absent or inappropriately. So to get into the second band you have to use specialist terminology. To get into the third band you need to use it well. So always use your terminology. So if you're fed up with me badgering you about terminology, giving you clues about this is the first letter, think carefully about it, that is because you must have terminology to get to the higher marks. Okay? So things that actually could be on this specific question, and so it's not a you don't need to mention all of these to get the 6 marks. I want you to think, is it generally well accurate and mostly detailed, or is it evident but without enough detail? Do I use enough specialist terminology? And within this one I would definitely like you to explain a little bit more. So where could the terminology be used? Because you could get, it's very likely you could get a question about Wundt, not 100% but possible, so I want you to be telling me how you could improve. Could you go through and add in terminology? Could you go through and say how you would structure it more coherently? So read it again, think it's clear and focused, and is it generally accurate and mostly and well detailed? So think, have you got everything right, or have you made some mistakes, and have you put lots of detail in, or when I mention things you think, oh yeah, I didn't mention that. So just as well, so with this one, lots and lots and lots of feedback please, otherwise it's a waste of your time. Credit mediation, don't worry too much about that. I think that was something left over from a previous mark scheme. Wundt, as you know, is known as the father of psychology and moved from philosophical roots to controlled research. So we know about moving from philosophy to controlled research. Set up the first psychology lab in Leipzig, Germany in 1870. Whilst not an absolutely vital thing to know, it does get you some marks. Prompted the use of introspection as a way of studying mental processes and then explaining what that is. So introspection is systematic analysis of own conscious experience of a stimulus. An experience was analysed in terms of its component parts. So sensation, emotion, reaction, and his work paved the way for later controlled research and the study of mental processes. So if you've already made notes on the behaviourist approach, you will know that the behaviourists only did controlled research, and that was inspired by Wundt, or moving away from Wundt, and also internal mental processes, cognitive psychology, which is after, which will be the second week of January. We look at that. Right. A2, if you mention mean or median, then you're fine. There's no repeated scores, so mode would not be appropriate. So if you mention mode, that is not right. It's either mean or median. And then you could justify the mean by saying it uses all of the available data, it's powerful and sensitive measure, or suitable for interval and ratio data. Don't worry about the interval and ratio data. We will look at that at A2, possibly if you're lucky in bridging over AS. So that's one of the examples. If that's not on there and you're thinking, well, Andy told me something different, go check your notes with Andy. If you put the notes with Andy, I'll allow a mark for that. So if what Andy said's on there, I would allow a mark. Justification for using the median is that it's relatively unaffected by outlying scores. Again, have a look at those with Andy. To be 1 mark for a very, very brief suggestion. If you put up a post on social media, put up a notice with no elaboration, no detail, you'd think in class, I'd say tell me more, then 1 mark. If you have had some elaboration, so that could be applied to the scenario, such as advertise on the staff room notice board asking teachers to sign a list. So what I would say is with this one, you don't have to have, because it doesn't say in this study, because it doesn't say in this study, you don't have to have contextualisation. However, the easiest way to get those elaboration, those second marks, is to put some contextualisation in there. That's why I'd say I'd prefer you to over-contextualise rather than under. So it's not the standard rule of if you haven't contextualised you don't get any marks. You can get marks for really brief comments, but I would say 1 mark if you haven't contextualised, 2 marks if you have in more detail. And can you see the difference? Put up a notice, or put up a notice in the staff note room in the notice board asking teachers to sign a list. You need to have that additional level of detail. Some examples of extraneous variables, and I know people asked for more examples in the SurveyMonkey they did, so I've tried to give as many as I possibly can. It's still not exhaustive, which means there's still not every single possible answer on there. So check with me. They could have varying abilities of memory. Some of them could use their own memory strategies. Some could go shopping more than others, so be more familiar with the concept of shopping and remember shopping lists. They're all teachers. The supermarket might be busier or quieter depending on which condition goes when. The temperature, it could be a very hot day, it could be a very cold day, it could be a very normal day. Time of day, so in the morning and in the evening, which could link in with busier and quieter, but it could also link in with how awake people are, how effective. There might be certain times of day that memory is more effective. And noise, the supermarket could be very, very noisy, it could be very, very quiet. And experimental bias is always an extraneous variable you could use as well. So 2D, the final one, the control must be related to the variable in C, so you can't say experimental bias and then talk about matched pairs. 1 mark for a brief selection and a 2nd mark for some elaboration. So I said the extraneous variable I would discuss was memory, and I said that give teachers a memory test before they complete the experiment. That would get you 1 mark, and match them on their memory with one doing one condition and one doing the other condition as a baseline. Other things that you could talk about, so let's go through them. Use their own memory strategies. You could ask them not to use memory. Explain the aims of the study and explain to them that you don't want them to use memory strategies, and you could also ask them to explain when they came back from the supermarket, you could ask them how to kind of give you a bit of qualitative as well as quantitative data, so not how many of them remember, but also you could ask them to explain how they try to remember the information to weed out any that use really effective memory strategies. Some that could go shopping more than others, same thing, match pairs, ask them how frequently they go shopping, match them together. They're all teachers. This one is a bit of a tricky one because technically I eventually accepted it was an extraneous variable, but of course it's more with the extraneous variables here was more looking at the procedure. So is there a problem with the procedure, like could they go shopping more? Within that, this was a problem with the sample, but I would accept that they were all teachers, and obviously you could say that you could do a stratified sample and make sure that you get a mix of people. You could use students for comparison, whatever it might be. Supermarkets might be busy or quieter, so they all have to go at the same time. Make sure they all go at the same time of day. You could also suggest that they count in and out the number of people, and the teachers are only allowed to go inside when the supermarket has the same number of people, or the same number of people in the 2 conditions. Temperature, same thing, I suppose. You could ask them to go at the same time of day. You could check that the supermarkets monitor their level of temperature and ask teachers to go in when you've consistently found, say if you always find at 10 o'clock it's so many centigrade or whatever, then you could invite teachers in then. Time of day, dead simple, just ask them all to go attend at the same time of day, which might be a bit difficult to talk about in a lot of detail, so do think it backwards sometimes. If you think, right, I've got to give it 2 marks to explain a control, I need to give a control that allows me to talk for 2 marks of detail on how I could put it in place, and time of day might not allow you to do that. And noise, same thing, you could consistently over the next few weeks record the noise in the supermarkets and find times when it's relatively similar and ask the teachers to go in at those times. Oh, and experimental bias, I'm sure you can all remember carefully about single and double blind experiments. Potentially you could talk about those in that the participants would obviously be aware of which condition that they were in unless you didn't share which condition was which. But you could talk about not telling the experimenter, maybe the other thing you could talk about is standardised script, so making sure everything is exactly the same, and procedure, standardised scripts and procedure, making sure everything is exactly the same for everybody, so the experimenter can't go off and talk about sort of give clues to the experiment or share things. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much.